Welcome back. You hear the Goldberg. Today I wanted to address Gen X advice, not even boomer anymore, because the Gen Xers are increasingly becoming the boomers at a rapid click. This is from Hickman, Shagabark Hick. Here's my advice to single American men who feel hopeless about finding a good woman to marry. Take a month or two between jobs, drive across the USA, stop at every gas station and truck stop, eat every meal at diners during non-rush hours, avoid cities. Stop primarily in poor rural areas out in the middle of nowhere. Every time you see a pretty cashier or waitress with a good vibe, politely ask her out. Oh my lord. This is just fantastic. We're getting to Sarah Bareilles levels of red pill strategy. Down at the diner, I'm gonna get a little wider. Let me just say quickly, the idea of a road trip for a young man is actually good. Whether you have a group of friends or solo, it'll enhance your confidence, give you stuff to talk about. You can do it relatively low cost. So I'm 100% in favor of that. Now, trying to use it as some elaborate plan to get a trad wife just strikes me as another of these steaming turds these people come up with because they want to feel as that they're mentoring the next generation. And it was funny down here, he's got a response: do not approach women at work. This is terrible advice. Oh, you're a liberal. It goes back and forth. Many men will talk to females where they're employed because they have to interact if they're doing some measure of customer service, and that can work to your advantage or not. I'm not going to totally throw it out the window, but you have to remember many of these females are inundated with male attention to begin with. In fact, I can recall, who is the guy that drives around ranting to himself at night? He's looking for the promised land of women in the US. Or I had a conversation some time back with Steve Hoka, who I understand is a truck driver, and he was like, "Man, I can't get anything." Which I figure, if you're driving a truck and most of the place you're stopping is going to be gas stations or rest stops, little diners, yeah, on the one hand, there might be a female there, but she's probably used to a lot of regular guys who drive trucks talking to her. So unless you're standing out well above the rest, I don't know how effective it's going to be. Here we have AJ Cortez, Chad Jesus. There are pretty girls everywhere, like in Texas where I live. Funny enough, he married a Pooja, though. He didn't get one of those pretty girls. And I'm saying this because these influencers probably assume that the bulk of their audience are reasonably attractive, minimum of 5'8", 5'9" white dudes who need to go out, get a Becky, and repopulate the nation. Yet you don't see a lot of triumph on their part. And Mike Cernovich married a mediocre ethnic. And then Matt Walsh with the assist there. You can do anything. You can live in your car. This guy down here, it might get cut off with the edits, but Bashar al-Assad PR department. Go live in your car. And other sound advice from Conservatism Inc. Yeah, you're right. These people, they want you to find a wife while living in your car or being a transient. Now, I don't want to totally dismiss the possibility. Maybe girls are looking at these dudes and it's not incel, it's Travago. Or you can find some hippie chick that wants to drop everything and go. But please don't end up being bald cell Brian. Honey, I need you to relax and don't get so excited. Calm down. Just be quiet. Be quiet. No, 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 not that quiet. Not that quiet. Don't be freaking, Petito and Brian. It's just brutal. But while this advice, there's probably some cases where it's going to work, I still just find it to be completely ignorant of the relative demographic shifts that are going on. I mean, these folks, even the Gen Xers, many of them are growing up. They had a much larger white population. They had higher trust society. Women probably, I would say at least in the 90s, women were not nearly as hypergamous to the extent that they didn't have cell phones, social media, access to almost every guy. So by no means can you say there's every option has been obliterated. But these dudes are just not terribly realistic. And they're trying to throw it on the next generation, as is always the case. Oh, well, the Zoomers can do it, the millennials can do it, yada, yada. It reminds me of this boomer I know who will lecture on how I need to have confidence, approach chicks, run game, find a wife. Meanwhile, he geomaxed for a spouse 40 years ago. There's no shortage. You see these bold cells with some indigenous or Filipino midget talking about, oh, just be confident, bro. My experience when it comes to road trips and the women you'll come across, I forget which state it was some years back, there were some cute chicks working in the gift shops and the diners, or I should say restaurant, but they weren't very friendly. And you also have to contend with that most of them are in college. So if you talk to one of these chicks and she's a freshman or a sophomore, she's going back to school. We have the female board collective. They're not looking to jump in a car with some random guy who has a wagey job in most cases. I don't want to totally eliminate the possibility. So, yeah, it sounds okay, but you're still going to have to confront that reality. Like, if she wants to finish college, yeah, you could maybe have a long distance relationship. It's not a terribly ideal plan. And then, okay, let's say you find the girl and bring her back to where you are. Do you have enough economic livelihood to stay afloat? Is she going to then try to trade up for another guy? I mean, we can present every possibility and then you spend life doing nothing. I'm just saying I don't get the sense, and I'm not talking about online, because yeah, you can poison yourself by watching a bunch of TikToks, but the women I've interacted with, I've met like in the workplace, whatnot, I don't get the sense that the typical female is in a hurry to settle down and get married and have a bunch of babies. So I really wonder where all these mystical females are, these fellows will appeal to. Another experience I had was in a suburb of Dallas, 7-Eleven. There was a fairly attractive Pooja, like she was lighter skinned, very radiant face. I only had about 10 minutes to spare though, so I was going to talk to her, but there was that clown Latino with a wad of dollar bills at the counter trying to argue about the price, which I'm noticing a lot more Hispanics are just rude and they will freeze you out if you're not Latino. Like if they're working someplace, they'll always favor the Latino customer or they don't care. They're all like in line. They will not show courtesy. They got one person with a freaking cart jam packed full of clothes, and you got a couple items, and like, well, go screw yourself. One cashier. They're not going to do anything about that. It's just I'm noticing as the population grows, it seems to be the case. The more of a concentration of a minority you have, the worse they behave. But in any case, I didn't talk to this Pooja because the uncle or the father curry cell started doing mate protecting game, so it was irrelevant. My honest advice, if you're one of these normie white dudes who's trying to attain a partner, there's a guy in the comments who mentions going to farmers markets. I would say get yourself a part-time job at a Target, an Olive Garden, or Chick-fil-A. Maybe you get lucky you can snag some 18 to 20-year-old who isn't totally ravaged by the world yet. I know that's becoming less and less common. And start dating her. Ideally, have her knocked up within 2 years. Now, that sounds, oh, that's terrible advice. But it becomes harder to pull that off when you get older simply because you're not going to be in the same social circles. Your job will probably not feature such females unless you're bringing them in as interns, and that's a bad idea trying to smash one of them in the office. So you can front load that aspect of the family formation. And then if you want to go and get a trade, get better income, you can do so. If she chooses to leave you at that time, she can't totally financially wipe you out because you're basically a wage slave. And it's far easier interacting with females at that age because they don't usually have the same ego. Every chick I talk to over the age of 23, I swear to God, they have elevated all their expectations. The bad behavior's off the charts, and you're going, who wants to interact with this? How are you going to start a LTR with some creature that is just, they have this high opinion of themselves, but they bring less and less to the table the more that they age. So I would just, I'd say go that route if you can. I might even attempt it because I'm younger than I actually, my age comes off because when I shave the beard, I still have a full head of hair. I do the skincare routine. So I could probably do it. And I was thinking, let's say you're working at Target, just show up there, be extremely aloof and vague. And if a woman asks you, you just say, yeah, I did some time in prison down in South America, smuggling cocaine and all that. It's pretty brutal. Uh, Used to have a sick ass tramp stamp, but I had to get it removed or the cops would identify me. It's just the life. And if any soy jack or manager tries to interact with you, you just, no, yeah, what's up, bro? I mean, it's a more realistic option. Or could say you could go to a consumer capitalist Christianity church. You might have a chance there. But this drive across the nation trying to find a trad wife, I ain't gonna say it's impossible, but I don't think it's terribly practical for most men. And you're always going to be dealing with that problem, which is that do you have enough at that point in time to appeal to this rando chick to run away with you? And are you going to be able to sustain it? So I would just go local. If you have a Target, you have a restaurant, much better option than trying to find one somewhere in a backwater town. Or you guys let me know. Maybe you think I'm wrong and we all need to jump in cars to find the future savior of the Western civilization.